Embedded firmware developers typically use in-circuit debugging to debug firmware applications. This means that after a project is compiled, an in-circuit debugging tool must be used to download the binary image to a physical microprocessor for every debug cycle. With a Virtuoso cross-compiled virtual device, the virtual target is simply loaded and ready to run instantly. When stepping through code with a microprocessor-specific debugger, the debugging capabilities are subject to the limitations of the debugging hardware, including instruction step speed, number of breakpoints, and limited breakpoint and triggering configurations. When the application runs in Visual Studio, there is no hardware debugger to purchase. The debugging isn't restricted by the communication bottleneck of the debugger hardware, and code stepping occurs instantaneously. The variables in a watch window must be loaded each time the debugger is paused while debugging. When debugging in-circuit on the hardware, this data is transferred through the hardware debugger tool, which limits debugger responsiveness. And often the microprocessor-specific development environment provides limited watch window functionality. A virtual device in Visual Studio runs locally on the computer, and there are no delays when stepping through code while the watch window is refreshed. These improvements to the embedded debug cycle are even more pronounced when the design involves the development of firmware on multiple microprocessors that interact or communicate with each other, or when a Visual Studio PC application is developed to communicate with the target. Using Virtuoso, all of these applications can compile and run in a single Visual Studio solution, where the Visual Studio debugger is attached to each application for simultaneous debugging. The result is a dramatic improvement in developer concentration and overall productivity.